And we're live. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Festival of Enterprise Bounce Back Live webinar. Today, again, we're back with Andy and Jason from Dell Technologies, and they're going to be talking about intelligent solutions that provide flexibility to expand. So I'm not going to take up too much of your time. We've got two fantastic experts here today. I'm going to hand you over to them. Please do feel free to put any questions in the question box or in the chat box. Do share where you are and what the weather's like. It's very grey here in Birmingham. I assume it's going to be the same across the UK, but no, please do share some information with us. If you have got specific questions, if anything the guys are talking about, if you want further information, please do put some information in the chat and they'll try and address that, or I will ask the questions at the end. So yeah, over to you guys. Thank you.
Cheers, thank you very much. Hi from sunny Honolulu. I wish. That would be really nice. Unfortunately, no. It's a bit grey skies here, but I'm in Glasgow. And Andy, you are in?
I'm on the east side of the country in Lincoln, in Lincolnshire. So unless there's any red arrows fly past today, I should be good and no distractions in the background.
Yeah, they did actually come up to visit us the other day, up to Prestwick Airport, and did a little bit of a show at the airport. But unfortunately, I was still in my bed.
Right. Yeah, they did because I actually saw them come back because I'm straight on the flight path, so it's quite a cool place to live.
I do. I suppose we should talk about some stuff, shouldn't we? We really enjoyed the last session.
It's good, yeah.
Really well. I think Rob had some great questions. In fact, we chatted about so many different things. But today, that wording sounds very complicated. Intelligent solutions that provide flexibility to expand. It's all about, again, growing with technology and the technologies that we use to do that. And it's back to the discussion that we had a little bit about, what was it, workforce transformation, Andy?
Indeed, yeah, workforce transformation, because that's where we started the journey, really, wasn't it? We started with our mobility products back in the first session. And what did we do the last week?
We talked about our specialist users, so those that are using more powerful workstations, both mobile and fixed units, actually. So different things. So today, I think we're going to think about being stuck back at this desk again, as we all have been at the moment, and we'll probably talk about our fixed products as well.
Yeah, and what do we call that? That's as a workforce transformation piece. We actually have a name for it.
There's a great Americanism for it. It's called desk-centric. So those that are stuck to a desk about 80% or more of their time. And this was all stuff that we had researched way before the situation that we were in. And that landscape, of course, has changed so much so that more of us are sat at a desk for more time than we've ever done. So we've actually seen quite an uptake on desktop solutions. People thought the desktop was actually disappearing. But in fact, it's one of the biggest growing areas that businesses buy from us is desktop units. And that's at large scale and also at smaller scale too.
Yeah, and that was driven predominantly by people changing from Win 7 to Win 10, which was a big driver in the marketplace for the sales of both mobile devices, but specifically in desktops as well.
Let's see what it looked like in the past. Actually, is probably interesting because I know that you actually shared with me how much was your first ever PC. It looked something like that. Not that one. That's a Dell.
It did. It looked exactly like that. Mine, but mine was black because mine was quite trendy. And mine was an Olivetti, desktop PC. It looked exactly the same as that, and it was in the region of £2,500. It was actually in its day, it was the third most expensive purchase you would make in your life after your house and your car.
Yeah, absolutely. And for me, it was a case of jumping up through the ranks from a Spectrum through to Commodore 64 and Amiga and all sorts. But when I got our first PC for the family home, it was actually an IBM Aptiva, in fact, built just along the road from me in Greenock. I wish I'd kept that, actually, because it's a bit of a technology history of the old Silicon Glen that is kind of surrounds us. And when it closed, the IBM plant, actually, everyone ended up joining Dell. So a lot of my friends are actually ex-IBMers that work with us at the moment. But it was a different time. We're dealing with different ways. And there was no way of hiding that away and making that look nice and neat whatsoever. Yeah, it took up quite a bit of space in the house. I think ours was in the dining room, and the CRT monitor, the weight of that, you weren't going to move it and put it away or keep a nice clean area or anything.
Yeah, this is actually a bit of a timeline. Actually, I didn't tell you that bit before I started, did I?
You didn't? No.
I didn't know. So we've got 1980 through to 1990, and then we've got a 2010 variant there. So it just gives you an example of the timeline of what happened. So the introduction really of the TFT panel there on the second picture, but again with a huge tower. Yeah, that's it's quite a beast, that one there. And then obviously as we progress through, those devices started getting a little bit smaller. I presume that's where we went to, and obviously that's continued the trend really, and that's a bit of history there. In fact, if anyone wants to pop in the chat about what their first
what was your first system? Yeah, that's always good. Because I get geeky in that because I keep most of my machines. I've got a bit of an archive in the house.
Indeed. Okay, so a little bit of fun there, a bit of history about how it all sort of started back in the day, and that's what the desk-centric sort of started. That's where we started our story, and the desk space as well. Now that's where we sort of come into play nowadays. It's about the desk space that we have available to us. In the old days, it was smaller. And then it grew because obviously the equipment grew, and then it started shrinking quite substantially. I think I'm one for figures, Mr. Crawford, as you know, and I do like my figures. And I think we heard a really good one. What was it? Was it 85% of all statistics are made up on the spot anyway? But desk space is actually reduced by around about 27% over the last 5 years, again across organizations. BBC Spectrum there, that's coming in there. Let's have a quick look then to see where we're going to from this. So this is where we are now, Mr. Crawford. Look at that.
Are we? And we aren't, because these people are actually in an office and we're at our homes. So there is that growth and change going back in. The desk space thing that you referred to, yeah, we have smaller individual desk space now,
we do,
but possibly distance from each other as well. So yeah, it's quite a challenging time.
Yeah, so what's been happening really over the past few years? Again, things have been getting much more smaller, much smarter, and more intelligent. And we're going to look at that into a little bit more detail as we move through. Now that's what we've got on the left-hand side is pretty much where we stand now. Now, as you can see, our biggest tower system now is actually smaller than a standard monitor. If you can see there, that's actually called a mini tower system, the biggest one on the photograph there. And we've also got something called a small form factor, and then right at the bottom we've got something called a micro, and that is super small, the micro device there. And we'll introduce you to another little device which is hidden into a back of a monitor stand. You might see it in that exploded view on the left. And then we've got a all-in-one devices as well. So that takes the need for having separate devices, multiple cables, and multiple connectivity, which can cause some chaos and confusion at times when we're deploying systems. So we'll have a look at how that all works. And then that's all connected to our ecosystems. And Jason's very passionate about his monitors, and we've got a couple of pretty spanking looking monitors in that image there. And can you just tell us what they are, Jason, as well?
Yeah, so in this picture, this is obviously, there's very specific uses for larger curved monitors. A lot of places like the financial sector use them. They use them because they're what we call multi-client devices, so we can actually plug in a couple of different systems rather than just having the one system. Or if we want to, we can actually use a free piece of software that we've got. It's Dell Display Manager, and that basically means that we can use it to slice up the screen in different directions so that we can work with lots of different content on a larger format monitor such as this. And as you can see in the picture, that one's actually double stacked. There's two monitors there piled on top of each other. Each of those monitors are 49 inches and basically amounts to having 4 27-inch monitors on a desk. Now, I don't think everyone's going to stare at things like that day to day, but you'll be surprised at the different amount of usage cases that come into it. In fact, London City Airport is now using our large format displays in conjunction with the Optiplex units that you've seen there, the micros. And what they're doing is having a virtual control tower. So actually, the control tower now for London City Airport is 80 miles away on the south coast. and they use all of our displays with the power of the desktop technologies at the back to actually power the airport. It just went on a wee tangent there, but I just remembered seeing a video on that, and I thought it was pretty cool. But yeah, so why would we choose a desktop over a laptop? I think that's the key question. Everyone's going to ask that.
Okay. So does anyone actually, let's just ask the question, if anyone is actually using desktops at the moment and not laptop devices, just give us a quick nod on the chat there. But there are quite a few reasons why you might want to use desktop solutions. And specifically if you're an organization, a small business that's expanding, because what you need to think of is if I'm moving into premises, how am I going to enable the technology in the premises to provide the best productivity for my end user? So, and that's where we really start with our Optiplex product portfolio, because what it does, it gives ultimate productivity. Now, although mobile devices are excellent for different workforce personas or different usage cases, ultimately the best performance you're ever going to get from a PC is via a desktop device that can be spec'd according to the end user's applications, which is what we touched on last week with our performance precision workstations. Also, there's another one which I think we discussed earlier or later last week, Jason and I, when we were discussing this particular session. We were talking about users' welfare and work-life balance. But perhaps, can you remember what that little discussion was about, Jason? I found that was really a definite positive to have desktop solutions.
I mean, for the lucky ones like us that have the advantage of maybe a home office or like your cabin and such, like, it's about turning off. Because the thing is, if you have a mobile device, we're all guilty of it. In fact, I like that Gillian's enjoying the garden in sunny Yorkshire. But that's great. That's great in the day, and that is an advantage of obviously having a mobile device, being able to enjoy things like that. But the other thing is that we tend to actually work longer and more hours than we ever used to. And strangely, this working from home thing has been very much for that. And I've done it for years. Because I have a lucky balance of working from home and used to travel all the time as well. So actually 2 systems, and my desktop at home and my laptop. And the reason I had 2 systems is because I'd have my laptop in my bag. It would not come out when I came home. It was for my travel, for my working away. My desktop was there, but my desktop was tucked away in my home office. So it meant when 5:30 came around or whenever the whistle decided to blow, I left that room and I closed the door. And that's really what I find is a useful balance, is being not that sort of thing where I'll just pick it up, I'll just work with it. We all work like that now, unfortunately, because of mobile devices such as phones and such like. And we can be very guilty of sending out a mail maybe at 8 o'clock at night or something like that. And you just see the notification and you want to look at it. It's all about trying to bring that balance back and try and make that simpler. So in order to do that, and obviously with depending on your space size and what you've got, if you are a home worker, it's about trying to actually find something that fits, a solution that fits you, keeps it nice and tidy, and hopefully neat, something that you can just put away into the corner and not actually have to worry about it later on in the day.
Indeed, and we've got a couple of solutions for that as well. So the all-in-one is perfect for that remote worker and sort of solo, maybe consultancy, things like that, where they just need. In fact, my Uncle Ken, bless him, down in Chippenham, actually, Uncle Ken is a RICS, so he's a quantity surveyor, and he's again, because we're solutions specialists, if you like, he says, what PC shall I get? And I pointed him straight away to a large screen, so the 27-inch all-in-one device, which is pretty much the one in front of you there, with the keyboard in front of it. Why? Well, because it was a single cable solution for him, but it had an awful lot of power, and you could actually incorporate graphics and all the technologies that would enable him to do his role quite efficiently. And that real estate of 27 inches was just perfect in his office space within that. I think he actually had an extension in his loft to actually enable him to do that. So that's just one typical example of a remote worker being able to just plug and play a single device. If you're actually then not so technical and you start buying desktops and monitors and keyboards and mice and lots of peripherals, like we explained in the previous sessions about docking all those things together. Once you've actually set them up, it's all good and well. But if you're not technically sort of minded, trying to get to that stage can be a little bit daunting at some point. But then again, the reason we are here is all about that Dell Technology Advisor system that we have in place, which is the free system. So you can actually get help by giving them a call, and they'll respond and give you some solutions to do that. So that's just one user. That's the remote user. What about if we're sort of having multi-users and we're in that? In fact, my first office that I didn't actually work in it. It was my remote office. It was down. Let me think now. Tenterton down in Kent. God, we've travelled a bit, haven't we, Mr. Crawford?
Yep.
Yeah, Tenterton in Kent. We had an office suite of around about 5 or 6 units, and that's pretty standard for a small business in the roundabout, the sub £1 million sort of turnover range. Now they were all fixed desktops with single monitors at the time, and that was all tied into a single probably tower server which was sat in the corner of the room. So the whole thing was tied together. It was a nice little infrastructure of those types of devices, and that's sort of where a lot of organizations will start, in that sort of infrastructure, tying in that server storage arena into their desktop units, and then people will come and go to that little office there, if that makes sense. And that's where we come to the different devices that we have. Again, it's about how do we make the best of that space. So we also, obviously, what we can do is, if we can have smaller devices, in fact the smallest micro device there, we can actually just pop that behind a screen. So we don't even have to make way for putting these things on desks. We can actually attach them behind screens, or we've got mounts that can put them under the desk. So the footprint that we can take in an office environment is tiny. It's negligible. It's smaller than the footprint that you would have in the width of your body, if you like. So that's quite key nowadays. And this is just the physical attributes of having desktops in the environment as well. And I say the bonus is that you can tie them into a full infrastructure piece in that small business, and then you can extend and grow them as you grow your office space, if you like. Okay.
Yeah, that's the thing, is it's not just about the outside, it's about the inside, and that expandability is important, because we don't always have the budgets in place to be able to do a full rollout of the top end systems immediately. But what the advantage is with Optiplex desktop systems is that you can go in and you can grow that inside. So if you want to upgrade things like your SSD card or your hard drive, if you want to upgrade your memory, if you want to add graphics capabilities later on, that's the beauty of desktops. I mean, I've worked with desktops for years, and I've even built my own from scratch, and I just found having that advantage means I could keep refreshing it and keep going. And even if at one point I decided to put in a new motherboard to keep my system going, we're not going to go that far with these, but you can keep them going for a good amount of time and keep them up to date and refreshed to work with what you're working on. And that includes all the models there. In fact, you can add memory to the all-in-one systems. You can add it to the 7070 Ultra there, or the Micro, the 7080 there as well. They're all got that expandability within them.
And exactly, I think what we haven't really talked about in the past is about different levels as well of products, because we've sort of pointed you in the direction of some of our most premium products that provide ultimate performance. Now, and in the desktop range, we have right from a basic level through to a performance, through to premium. So we don't have one size fits all, because one size never fits all in any technology department. It's all about that end user, and that's where that workforce transformation piece sits. So whatever you're doing, so if you're accounting, those widescreen 49-inch curves are absolutely amazing for accounting, because obviously you can get a lot of spreadsheet real estate on there. If you're into more of you might be a smaller organization that doesn't have the capabilities of a server storage unit, so you could have a larger small larger tower system, so the mini tower, which is a bit confusing because like the biggest tower we've got is called the mini tower. I can never quite get that one, but you can have something like that where you can put multiple drives on board to cope with your storage requirements, if you like. Yeah.
It's historical because that was the small one back when they did the naming convention. That was the small tower. Yes, so but it is a confusing one, and the reason that's bringing that up again and back to the tech advisors. Let them do some of the work to guide you through that fog, because it would be easy to make a mistake. Naturally, we did have a very large organization bought hundreds of these mini towers thinking it was the small unit, but they went and did it themselves without actually asking first. So it was a bit complicated and a bit challenging. So the tech advisors are there to help with all of that kind of thing.
Excellent. Before we go on to the intelligence stuff, really, I just want to should we show them a little bit about the 77
7070? Yeah, why not? Because it's a bit unusual. It's a bit different.
It is. Let me just see if I can do this. We've never tried this, so this is a.
I'm sure you'll manage. We're very tech orientated.
Okay, dokie. If you just want to minimize yourself, Jason.
I can't. That's not within my power to do.
That's not within your power to do.
I can see it clearly next to us at the side anyway. It seems to show quite nicely.
Okay, so this is a really, really clever product that we love talking about because it excites us. It's called a near cableless solution. Do you want to explain what a near cableless solution is, Jason? It's,
let's not use the term that's there. It does have cables, but basically what you've got is you have one cable to power your monitor. You then use one USB-C cable to connect to this Optiplex 7070, which Andy's just about to click around and show us the back of the unit. So the 7070 is an Optiplex system that is built to fit into the monitor stand. So just as that exploded out there, basically you've got that unit there, you connect it with USB-C, that provides the power to that unit, and you connect it to the monitor. So it's one cable from the monitor to that and one cable to your power supply. So what's the difference really? It's a lot of people would look, go, well, that's kind of like an all-in-one system. And this is actually a fully serviceable unit. So we can actually explode out, open it up, and go inside and be able to actually change things like our Wi-Fi card or memory, etc. In fact, that little nodule that's on the back, there's one single screw to remove on that, and then you're able to actually take out the hard drive within there. If you've got a solid or a standard hard drive, if it's a solid state one, that nodule won't be there. It'll be nice, flat and clear. But it's a really flexible unit because we can also mount it onto existing monitors as well. We're using a VESA mount at the side. So if you've got a monitor arm in the office and you've already got a monitor there, you can still use the 7070 as well. So it's quite a revelation because being able to get something that small and yet so powerful, they do go right up to i7 processors in them, so they do at the higher end of the Intel scale there. It's a very flexible unit, but it's just simple as well. It's not something that's too complicated.
Excellent. Yeah, it's we like showing people that, as I say, it's not. We're not saying it's the right solution for everybody. It's just a really cool, space-saving, low-footprint product that will work in a lot of modern office environments. So that's the Optiplex 7070. So we've shown you a little bit about the exteriors of them. So we have a basic system, the performance system, and then the premium system. So that's designated by a 3000, 5000, and 7000. But again, the Dell Technology advisors will be able to ask you about some of your usage cases and then recommend which one would actually fit your specific purposes. What we are going to talk about, though, is something we touched on in the first session, which is about intelligence, because the intelligence of these devices is really key. And a key differentiator between ourselves and our competitors. So what we want people to do is be as productive as possible, with we like to say zero downtime, and just constantly be have devices that are reliable. In fact, Dell's desktop devices are, we have three key tenets. They are the most manageable, the most reliable, and Jason,
I'm going to say secure.
Sorry, and the most secure. And security, I think, again, we'll probably give a little bit of an update on the security, because security, which we've mentioned in some previous sessions, is quite key in the marketplace today, specifically with the rise or the 350% increase in phishing attacks that are happening across all organizations, whether it be a small independent or a multinational banking or even government agencies.
Oh, we could talk about that for days.
Yeah, well, we've been doing a lot of sessions on security. So if anyone has please say, if anyone's got any security questions, just ask us them at the end. Anything that we can talk about.
Anything related to Dell, pretty much, you could cover it. Yeah.
Okay, so we've introduced the Dell Optimizer, and we introduced it to you in the first session, which was when we were talking about our most advanced mobile solutions. Now, the Dell Optimizer also comes into our desktop solutions, and this is where it makes them really, really intelligent. And the first one is our Express Response. So what does Express Response do? Well, Express Response basically works with the end user and their applications. So I'm going to give a little bit more of a deeper dive into the Express Response, because what it does, it enables the end users to choose 5 of their most frequently used applications. It will then monitor those applications for a period of about 7 to 14 days. Once it's done the monitoring, it will then be enabled to adjust the CPU and the memory and everything else within the device to run those applications at their optimum. In fact, some of the figures we're getting back is up to 150, 200% increases in performance on certain applications within the portfolio there. So once they're optimized, they will then automatically continue to be optimized using the AI technology built in. What this also means, it means that they're first to boot as well. So if you've got multiple applications open, when you first open them, they'll be the first ones to boot, and they'll be ready to instantly to use. And if you switch between them, there'll be absolutely seamless switch between applications. It's saving just that little bit of time. Oh, we've introduced that word time again, but it's just saving end users time and enabling them to be more productive. So it's a really cool tool, the Dell Optimizer. If you're an expanding and growing organization, it can be managed from your service provider, so they can manage it from a back end and roll it out across all your devices and look after it. So the end user doesn't even have to be involved with the process at all. It's fully automatic and can be, as I say, as soon as it's set up, after that initial learning period, it is fully orientated by the AI solution. And then the next one is
it actually came from what we talked about last week, and it came from our workstation and high-end compute. So it's actually a legacy from that. That tends to be what happens a lot, is that the new innovations come in at one level, and then we can filter them in and tweak them and get them right for every type of user. So having that on board just means, again, it's that productivity piece that Andy said. We can work faster and smarter with it, and we don't even have to lift a finger really after those 14 days. So makes a lot of sense.
I was actually thinking I got showing you the slide, but I hadn't. So there it is. In fact,
that's on the left-hand side. You have the applications there you select through. So they've got Firefox selected there for some bizarre reason, but some people still use it. And you can go and click through what you're working on, and then it just learns from them. On the right-hand side, we have something else as well, which is our intelligent audio. The intelligent audio is really useful in current days. In fact, Andy being in the shed just now, it's no doubt surrounded by lots of wildlife. I've actually even got squirrels and wood pigeons outside at the moment, and it gets in the way. There's nothing worse than joining a call and finding all this extraneous noise around. So you can actually select how you're working, whether it's a busier office or whether you're working with multiple people around your system, and it can basically focus in. It's a bit of an algorithm that picks out vocal range and picks out people rather than actually picking up all the background noise and the hubbub, depending on your location. Because I know many of us, like Gillian's obviously in the garden just now. I'm in my dining room while my wife's working in my home office because she stole that during these current times. And obviously, we're both on calls at the same time, so you don't want that overbleed of a conversation as well, because it starts to get very confusing and cluttered. So this is a vital part of the optimizer as well.
Yeah, so it can save that expensive, a really expensive headset as well. To actually that does it internally of the headset. It can negate the need for that and just using your standard headsets, which is quite cool.
Yeah, in fact, that's what Lindsay's on, is a pretty standard headset. I've got a fancy one, but that's just because that's me.
Okay, so yeah, the Dell Optimizer. It's not in all of the Optiplex range. If it is something that I think it's a really nice tool in the environment of today, and the Dell Technology advisors will be able to advise you which systems and models it's available in, or if something that is of interest, we can tell you a little bit more information further. So again, all this technology comes at an expense, which we're all fully aware of, and we've got again, our technology advisors can step in to help them. Now, how is that possible, Mr. Crawford?
Well, they do all the hard work, because they can have all the things that you require and basically combine it all together under a solution under Dell Financial Services. So the expensive technology at the start outlay can feel like a lot, especially if you've got multiple users. So they can do all sorts of things like package up the software and all the bits and pieces that you require. In fact, they could even package up some non-Dell products now and again and sneak them in there and basically make it one price per user. So they can do it as a PC as a service, or you can do different deferred payments. Basically, what Dell is we're our own bank. So we are a AAA rated bank. So we're able to supply all those services to be able to make it simpler for you. More than anything, that's the short and long of it, really.
Okay. So well, we've gone to 30 minutes. We could talk for hours, as you're probably aware. We sort of like to chat about all things evolving around different technologies in workspaces.
Yep, I think the last bit is that piece of the advisors pulling it in together is really what it is.
Yeah, and there's our little infographic on that there. So you get a dedicated partnership with our Dell Technology advisors, so you'll have a single point of contact there. Tailored solutions. So we've talked about this particular round. We've talked about the office environment. So if you are looking at maybe expanding into or growing into different office spaces, we can talk to you how to do that and the different options available, whether it'll be a hot desking solution, or this particular solution we've talked about today is about the desktop solutions that are available. And again, so we can do that by anyone visiting the Dell Technology advisors, or through the Small Business Solutions web portal there that is on the screen. The phone number's there. The web portal's there. We're here to answer questions because we like that bit quite a lot, because everyone is different. One size never is going to fit all, and it is all about really learning and listening to you guys of what you're actually doing and what solutions you have in place and what you're thinking of doing. That's what we like to help out with.
And what we're going to talk about next week, before I like to sell next week's conversation and talk about it. What are we going to talk about?
Oh, you've put me on the spot there, Mr. Crawford. Right. Every year we take innovation to the next level, and this year is no different. We're taking our brand new XPS products into the spotlight next week. And the XPS is our premium prosumer brand. Now, we'll also probably talk a lot around sustainability on that as well, because sustainability is a big part of the XPS mix.
In fact, it's a big part of every organization. Just earlier, we were chatting to Kasim before the call in the green room about organizations and their approach to sustainability. And Dell has a whole vision for up to 2030 and all the bits and pieces that go in within it. But we won't spend time on that just now. That's a little bit on that next week.
Cool. And I don't know if Kasim's actually there.
I hope so. He is. He
Oh,
is.
so-
He's
I am
tasting the
here,
rice.
guys.
There
I
we
haven't
go.
left you. I've been listening in. I've been taking notes and
I say,
reading some of the fantastic questions we got. So we've got one question here from a gentleman who says, I'm currently using Samsung as display screens and Raspberry Pi to power them and put content on. Is there anything in the Dell sort of suite that does something similar in terms of digital screens?
Oh, right. So, yeah, digital signage. That's quite a whole interesting section, actually, there.
it is.
Because we do, and usually it tends to be, if it's digital signage, it's a larger format display. So we have everything up from our 55 through to our 86-inch displays. In fact, our 86, we have interactive ones as well that you can work with too. The optiplexes we've just talked about in this call, actually on the interactive displays, slide in. They have a slot built in with a single cable pass through for power, so that you can actually just slot the optiplex in the back, mount it into the display, and you're good to go to whatever source content that you're working with. But yeah, it's displays. I could probably have done a session in displays, to be honest, because we have over 50 different displays, and because of that, we're actually the #1 display brand in the world. And people don't always think of Dell straight away, because we see what we see in our houses, and we see televisions and things like that. That's a slightly different nature when it comes to professional grade displays. They're meant to last longer, run harder, and then obviously as well, what you don't want, which you can get on a lot of televisions, is screen burning. And that's obviously another important consideration there as well. So use the right technology so that you don't have that ghosting effect, especially in something that has static content like PowerPoint, for example. One of the things that you see if you're watching it on a TV, and I've done that before back in the days when I couldn't afford to have a separate large monitor, I ended up with a big band at the top because Dell puts this big blue line on the top of all their slides. So actually, I ended up with a big sort of banding at the top of my screen on a standard TV. But yeah, there's a lot of solutions there. I mean, that's a good solution as a start as well, as the Raspberry Pi and a screen. It's a good way to start going. But as you grow and develop, going to that higher grade is always worth doing.
Yeah, I think what he's looking for is probably a better solution for his clients overall. So if I think obviously with the Raspberry Pi, you've got to have a power lead to that as well. And it's a lot of wiring. So I'm assuming he's looking for a better solution for his clients. And maybe if he's got higher end clients that can afford that better product, it might be worth sharing some of those products with him. Maybe putting something in the chat box, or we can send an email.
Or give a shout to the tech advisors, and they'll be able to talk right through it. Absolutely, because they'll be able to spend a bit more time in that, and be able to actually go through and find out the exact bits and pieces and the types of customers, and then work something to suit. So,
yeah, it's a good one.
Brilliant. We run an assessment center, and we are looking at a new solution. We tend to use laptops. However, we're rearranging our office now with social distancing and are looking at fixed workstations. What's the cheapest fixed workstation with an all-in-one? But it doesn't. So basically, what they're saying is it doesn't need to be. It doesn't need to have too much power because it's all web content.
Exactly. Yeah, there's a whole depth of range of field, anything from it's about 250, something like that. I'm just guessing out there because I'm not on the website, but it's down at your iFreeze at the low level. These can range anything from a few £100s to a few thousand. So obviously you don't need to go high end if it's just purely web driven content. An i3 processor is more than enough to be able to handle it. It's about keeping the solution tidy, because obviously if you're doing the social distancing thing again, you might want to mount like the 7070 that we had there, or the 7080 micro. You might want to mount it tidily behind the screen, because one of the things we found a lot when we're working with education, and that's a sector we've worked with for a lot, and Prometric centers, places like Thomson View and stuff like that, that do the out testing. we find that sometimes things go missing. So it's about keeping it tidy and locked away, because in schools particularly, and maybe I might have been guilty of that as a kid, going, oh, there's a nice piece of memory for my machine at home, I'll just unscrew the bit at the back. But we have a whole solution of a tidy casing that keeps it nice and secure as well. And obviously only the IT manager has the key to get in. So it's about keeping that clean desk space. So being able to have everything sort of cable and keep everything simple. And as well, probably depending on the environment, sometimes you use wireless keyboard and mice. I like hardwired because no one can easily pinch those. Not that I'm saying that would happen. In most of these places, you do have a camera watching over you. I've done a few of those exams myself, Microsoft certifications and things like that.
Yeah, so, okay, brilliant. Thanks, guys. I think we answered this one last week about the split screening. I think someone's asked a similar question about whether you can get a widescreen and split it. And I know we talked about this last week, didn't we?
Yeah.
One big screen and you can do so many different things with it. I don't know if you just want to run through that again quickly.
Yeah, I can type what it's called in the chat as well. So it's Dell Display Manager is a piece of software that we have that is free. It works on any Dell display, and you can download it and work actually from any system, even if you're actually using another competitor's device. You can actually install anything that's Windows based, basically. So you install Dell Display Manager. Once you've installed it, a couple of seconds to do. You then have a little taskbar in the corner, and you can actually split up your screen. So you could either do quadrants, you could do three pieces side by side, you could have one big window and a few panes surrounding. It just depends how you work. At the moment, I'm actually working on quadrants at the moment. So I have 4 windows in front of me. I have a PowerPoint presentation. I have you guys to the right-hand side. I have access to my Microsoft Teams at the bottom, and then I've also got an internet window open as well to be able to just work on that, and plus outside broadcasting on my laptop as well. So there's all sorts going on there, but Display Manager just makes life so much easier. We don't mention it enough, actually, and for something that's free, we should mention it more often because it just makes life so much easier.
Yeah, I think it's definitely been a popular question with a lot of people working from home and trying to maximize the space they've got. So I think if you think about it, if you've got 2 screens and you've got to have a stand holding the 2 screens up, sometimes it might be easier just to have the one screen on a stand and then be able to manipulate what you do with that one screen.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all about making life easier, not harder. And it's when it comes to things like that, it's obviously it increases your speed, because if you're flipping between windows, and that's what you tend to find with people that are working on laptops at home and haven't got a second screen, they are usually flipping between one window to the next window and maybe copy pasting content. Copy paste there's nothing easier than having those 2 windows that are locked in position, so they're not just floating there. You can't accidentally click them. They snap into those locations, and you can just easily copy and paste across the content. So yeah, good question. It's interesting to see the trends that it does come up again and again, that question. It's again, I think we're the only provider that provides that particular solution, and just keeps it very simple.
Brilliant. I've got another question here about networks. We're a small business, maybe 3 to 4 users in the near future. Should we use a cloud-based network system, or would you still recommend a server? We're a small accountancy firm.
Yeah, so there's an argument to and fro on a lot of this, I think. Andy, you've found this as well, that there's a lot of people that are finding that adventure of trying to work out, do we go cloud or do we go hard? What are the advantages and disadvantages is probably really what we want to say in it, because both of those solutions work.
Yes.
But there's key parts about, there's probably more questions to it. In fact, again, someone could do a deeper dive with this and find out exactly what are you working with, what is the data sets you're working with, because one of the bigger concerns, as we mentioned earlier, is security. if your content is on premises, should be pretty secure. You've got it in your hand. It's physically there with you. Whereas if you're putting it in the cloud, it can draw some concerns to go, can anyone else access? How did they get in? What are the levels of security that are in place? And I suppose that really comes down to a comfort level. Cloud services as well can be great, but they can be very expensive, and the costs can ramp up as well. So sometimes you're actually better off buying the equipment. It's a balance, because again, it's the kind of carrot and the stick sort of thing, and go, we've got you into our cloud platform, now all your stuff is there. Okay, what do we do if we want to change in the future? It's not quite as easy as it seems. You had that, Andy, I think, with some cloud content that you had, or you were talking to somebody about it.
Yeah, we hear quite a few stories, especially on the shows that we go to, about people, after the introductory periods, they can then be faced with an increase in subscription costs. And then it's not just free to take it down as well. So you've got a large amount of data set up there. It's actually you've got to actually pay to get it transferred across. So the smart move is always don't keep all your eggs in one basket. And spread your bets. So we talk a lot about multi-cloud, so having multiple platforms dealing, looking after different things, so that you can always access it from somewhere at some point. So the cost of actually having your own infrastructure in if you say 4 or 5 users, having a small tower desktop running a very simple server solution with maybe having your mail servers on board as well, so taking that cost in-house as well. So again, there's lots of costs you can bring in-house if you're actually using a simple tower server. So it's about looking at that, and that's what the Dell Technologies advisors will be able to help you with. Really, it's about looking at not just the one little thing. It's about looking at actually this can benefit you in all these different ways. So yeah.
It's about all the details, because we could give a very quick answer and it might not be the right one once we find all the different pieces, and that's what the tech advisors do. They drill down into the nitty gritty to find out actually maybe there's a reason you've gone this direction, and we can point you in the right way from there.
Yeah. So, for example, they might only have a few clients, but those few clients might be massive in the data. So they might need loads of data. So it's all about balancing the different requirements of each different infrastructure.
So I've got another question, bit of a cheeky one. This one. We're due a system upgrade very soon. However, I'm holding out for when prices are going to be lower. Is there any time of the year when you can pick up some great deals with Dell?
Now that has changed drastically. The whole environment has changed entirely. Due to the circumstances that we're in, we've actually seen quite a lot of technology, sadly for some areas of it, become a little bit more expensive because of getting a hold of the amount of components and parts that go along with it. And that's actually spread across all manufacturers, not just Dell. Now, they do sometimes do things that are particular campaigns, depending on what the environment is. So, like, obviously, when it's coming back to things like back to school and things like that, those are the traditional things that we would have normally seen. Now we're even at the stage of going, we don't know what to predict next at the moment, because it really is so fluid and changeable. But there is a lot of stuff that does come up there. Again, actually, the advisors are well aware of when the best time for systems is as well, and they can actually talk through that. And also they can look at bigger solutions and actually tie in, depending on what products are being bought, and actually bring some of the costs down as well when it comes to that stage in the process as well. But again, it's not nothing's predictable anymore.
I think it goes back to what we were discussing before we came on air, was just different organizations, the demand of, say, for instance, Zoom and some of these other products just seems to be increasing daily. I mean, with more people working from home, businesses are having to purchase more tech for their staff to work at home if they haven't already got laptops and stuff. So literally you're seeing a lot of demand in the market for tech right now. So I agree with you there. I think now is probably not the right time, but we don't know what the future holds.
Well, that's why we'd always look at that finance model. We'd look at using as a service model. So it's a no-brainer to me. You take away the capex, so the capital costs of all your technology, and you put it into an OPEX cost. So it's a fixed monthly cost. You know exactly what you're getting. If you've got 4 users, it's 4 times the amount. If you flex up to 10 users, it's going to flex up to 10 times. You constantly know what that's going to be. And if you do it right, it works out 87% of total cost. So if you bought it at 100,000, I mean, that's a figure. Say you bought it at 10,000, it's actually only going to cost you 8,700 if you did it on a flex cost, which is hang on. Do I want to pay more? Not sure. Plus the fact down the line, I'm going to continue to roll and get brand new kit, which means I'm going to keep up with my technologies, which means all the stuff we've been talking around for the last 3 weeks, the latest developments, the latest technologies, you're going to be part of that cycle. And I think that's really important in today's environment to keep on top of it, because workers, and we found this in a study, I think it was 65% of workers will move jobs to work with the correct technologies, because it is nothing more frustrating than working with technology that is slow, old, and unreliable. So look at putting it into a flexible payment solution, because that's the way forward. So don't worry about the cost. Cost is irrelevant when it comes to actually, I'm really passionate about this, as you probably can tell. It's
it's interesting, Andy, because I think a lot of the things that we see today is all based on subscription. So any software you want, whereas before, my colleague Brad, he's just bought a brand new PC for video editing and stuff like that. And, before you could purchase software and you'd pay outright £300-400, whatever it was, some of the Adobe suites would cost you in your thousands. But now it's all subscription based. So everything you're doing, everything you're purchasing now is all based on a subscription. Whether it's Netflix, whether it's your car. I mean, look how car leasing, personal car leasing, how popular that's now become, because people want to have the best and most up-to-date thing, and they would rather pay for it over time rather than own something. So they'd rather rent something. So I think the whole rental leasing model is the future, really. And I think, what you mentioned there makes real sense, especially in technology, when you could purchase a machine today and within the next week it's probably out of date.
You're absolutely spot on. I mean, that's it, from everything from that through to bikes. Nowadays, hardly anyone I know in the city centre has a bike, but you can get a bike any corner, because you just go up with your phone and you scan it and you go, that's my bike for the next hour. There's lots in that. And it tends to be the model in most things at the moment. For me, I'm a bit of a gamer, as you can see by the crazy Alienware headset. So it's subscription based for my games nowadays. It's either maybe a free model, or you pay for part of it, or you subscribe to content rather than actually doing it the way that we traditionally did and bought the CD and put it in and loaded it all in, because it's ever changing. And because technology is evolving, just like we were talking earlier, as technology grows and evolves, we want to have the next thing. So in a model like that, we can easily go, right, actually, this is 2 years down the line. Let's replace in and keep it at a lower cost.
Yes, because you've only got to have one of your workforce, I'm going to say crippled or reduced in productivity by a device that's not working correctly, and that's cost of that worker not being able to produce for that period, whether it's a day, half a day. That cost, if you look at it in real terms per hour, is quite a substantial amount. When you look at, actually, if I'd have bought correct in the first time, I would have actually saved money in the long run.
It's also what we're going to touch on, as I said, with the sustainability thing. At the end of the day, normally what you traditionally did is, once your systems come to its end of life, is what do you do with it? Do you take it down to the council civic community? Do you have to pay to dispose of it because it's a large amount of commercial systems? That is not the way it should really be working. We should be bringing those back in and refurbing them or repurposing them, which Dell has huge programs in. So some of our systems, for example, that have been used by organizations for a longer time, we then have a refurbished unit section that we actually sell on to make sure that they're still getting a secondary use of life for those people that can do that. And then, if the worst case scenario, melt them down, turn them into jewelry.
Don't give too much away. We might be talking about that next week. Don't give too much of the sustainability away.
Right, guys. I think we're coming close to the end now. Is there anything you guys want to finish off on before we go?
Oh, no, we're good. Thank you again for all these great questions. I think that's really keeps us going. It's always hard doing this kind of environment without that energy coming in from the participants. So we appreciate your time. And yeah, I think that's everything from me.
Yeah, I think the key thing for us is to make sure that people are fully aware of that Dell Technology Advisor scenario that we've got going. I'll just pop it up on the screen again if I possibly can, and if people have got any questions, just to give them a ring directly, and they'll be there to help. So that's yeah, pretty much
Brilliant.
it from me too.
What day are we back next week?
Same time, same place.
Same time, same place. Dell Technologies. Thank you very much, guys, and look forward to speaking to you next week.
Cheers. Thank you.
Take care. Thank you. Bye.